So this is the actual drone that I have. It's called the NewBeeDrone, or the company that makes it is called NewBeeDrone. And the specific drone is the Acrobee beebrain Pro. But yeah, this is the drone. It's pretty simple. It's extremely tough. I've been dropping this thing from pretty far up. I crashed it into some trees trying to find line of sight this weekend because I didn't have my headset, all types of stuff. And I have missed 2 screws, which actually just came in the mail. So I'm excited about that to fix this thing back up. But I was flying it with 2 out of the 4 screws in there, and it was still taking a beating. So I was kind of pushing it because I've already mentally committed to buying new drones. So I was like, if I break this one, it'll just be learning experience and I'll get to fix it and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm being a little bit reckless with it now, but this thing, I think, for just starting off is an amazing value. I know there are a ton of other ones kind of at this price point and these little mini whoops. So I have nothing else to compare this to, but as far as someone starting off, like there was no really steep learning curve with like the technology side of things. There's a steep learning curve for flying for sure, but as far as like getting this thing to pair with a controller and all that fun stuff, that's the NewBeeDrone. So the rest, go ahead.
Options in this space or just with this drone? Because I know you bought these pieces separate. Do they offer like a full kit?
They do. They have what they call bind and fly. Or sorry, no, they have ready to fly bundles. I'm not sure exactly where they are. So bind and fly is this little guy. So it doesn't come with anything. But even the same exact...
what is that bind and fly? What does that mean?
Just it doesn't come with goggles or a radio, basically. But it will bind to... It's not like it's a proprietary thing. Like you can bind it to other stuff.
Okay.
But if you wanted to buy a whole kit from them for $160, it comes with the drone, it comes with a little controller, and it comes with a headset and even a carrying case, which is kind of cool. Looks like 2 carrying cases, actually. So if the reason I didn't go this way and the reason I personally wouldn't suggest this is because then you just kind of end up with a useless controller and a headset you're probably not the happiest with. I don't know, maybe I would be fine with this headset, but like the screen on this was way smaller, it wasn't quite as bright, and I think pairing it to other stuff is not as easy as the headset that I have now. So just thinking about like longevity of getting into this hobby, from the research that I had personally done and just my own like feelings about FPV droning, I knew that I was gonna be doing this for longer than like just one drone, or I had a very strong sense that I'd be doing this longer than just like these tiny little drones just for fun. So having this controller that looks bad to me, like the ergonomics of it look bad, the actual like buttons and all that stuff don't look all that great. It's not something that I would find all that useful having around. So spending an extra almost twice the price for, you know, a headset that's probably not that great and a controller that's not that great didn't seem worth it to me, when I could spend a little bit of money and use the controller for you know, more things that I wanted to do.
Somebody like me that had no idea if this is even what I wanted to do, is this the route that you would suggest a new person take because of the ease of just buying all that stuff together?
If you're looking for ease, you'd probably just go DJI. So knowing that I'm getting into this hobby to like learn how to solder and how to fix small electronics, like knowing that the problems that this hobby comes with are things that like skills that I actually want to build. That's why I'm diving into it the way that I am, rather than like the ease. If you're looking for something that's super easy and like you're not gonna have any problems with, FPV is probably not the hobby for you, just being 1000% honest, because you're flying something that you don't know how to fly, which usually equals you're gonna have to fix it or continuously buy new ones. Just a hobby like this that's not like so much hand holding, even though like this compared to where drones started is like extremely hand holdy, right? But it still comes with a level of difficulty. So maybe, you know, 2 years in the future it will be things that will have changed, drones, I don't know how technology will advance or whatever, but where we're at in the world right now, and the technology that I have in front of me, I would say that the way that I'm getting into it, I have no problems with. It's really hard for me to be like, yes, this is definitely the way everyone should get into FPV droning, because I have less than 1% experience with everything out there. But I personally don't look back and like regret any of the purchases that I've made. Transmitter, it's a beta FPV, which is different than Betaflight, which is another company. And it's just their 2. They only make 2 transmitters. This one's the 2nd generation. They've made a lot of updates compared to the first one, which I'm pretty happy with, but it's still a $40 transmitter compared to most of the other ones, which are like $160, which is actually something I'm going to show. So the reason I got this is because the higher end one, the Team Black Sheep transmitter that I wanted, is out of stock. And it's still out of stock. So I'm glad that I purchased this, but it was kind of a impulse buy, if you will, that because I saw how long the delay times were for that other transmitter that I really wanted, that I think will be my main transmitter for most of my FPV career. So spending $40, and really what this allowed me to do was to plug into the, I have it plugged into my computer right now, which means I can play the simulator with this controller and no longer an Xbox controller, which is actually a huge difference. If you have nothing else, just using an Xbox controller is fine. But if you want to get into this and not crash all the time and be able to practice, a simulator is a great way to go. And this tool is a great one to use with the simulator. So that's my little plug for this guy. And so again, like the mindset that went into buying this was like, this is kind of top of the line for the lowest end transmitters. Something that I'd be happy to give, my little nephew or someone who's never flown before, like this controller, before I would give them another one that might, be a little bit more delicate or whatever, or that I'd care more about. So just thinking about like, how can I share this and all those types of things, or even just give to somebody if I meet someone locally that like wants to get into it. I could, when I upgrade my setup, I could give them this setup and not worry about it too much, so that they could practice and then we could go out and fly together and have more fun than if they like constantly have to wait on me to be available to fly or whatever. I'm having problems with my video feed right now, and I'm not sure if it's the drone or these headsets. So this is not like a full-fledged endorsement for this headset, but this is currently what I'm using, doing so with success. Not great success, but with some success. I'm not going to pronounce this name because I'm not exactly sure how to say it, but you guys can see it here on screen, and it'll be a link down in the description below. But these are FPV goggles with a DVR built in, which was very important to me because I did want to be able to share my footage with you guys. And also when you crash, you can go back and look at your DVR and see exactly where you went down. I don't know. You can do all the research in the world. There's a lot more educated people out there when it comes to this stuff. But again, this is my experience, and this is what I jumped into the hobby with. A big selling point for me on these goggles is actually the fact that these detach. So you can kind of see that line there that separates the place where you put it over your head and the actual like little screen there. So the fact that you can take that off and set it on a tripod, which I tried to do once, but it was a lot harder to fly with while Steven was here. I tried that out, and it looked like I didn't know how to fly at all. So it's definitely something you got to practice with. Or what I want to do in future is have 2 headsets, and this is going to be one that I can just set up for people to watch, and then the other one I'll actually be flying out of. So that's the plan there. But yeah, these are pretty feature rich, and the build on them is pretty durable so far. The antennas are not like the biggest things in the world, but you have to remember to carry them with you when you travel or go somewhere. Otherwise, it's a bad flying experience. So there's the goggles that I've been using. This controller I've been waiting for several weeks. It's probably close to 2 months now, back order, but getfpv.com is something that a lot of people talk very highly of, and I've seen that they are kind of the staple in the community for where to buy this gear. And I have been able to reach out to them, and they've gotten back to me in like 2 hours, just updating me on like, when the last order came in, when it's going out, that kind of stuff. So again, buying from a good company or one that the community suggests at least is mostly about the customer service when it comes to these types of things. This is the controller that I actually wanted, that I went out to buy. You can still see it's on back order here. This is the TBS, or Team Black Sheep Tango 2 Pro version of the controller, which just means the gimbals inside of the left and right thumbstick are a little bit smoother and will last a little bit longer, much longer I should say, and that they fold down, which I don't know how big of a deal that is. Paying like an extra $30 for those two things, I was like kind of on the fence with, but I'm like, if I'm going to spend, you know, $150 on a controller or $200 on a controller, I'd rather spend the extra $50 and make it last a little bit longer, or even make the resale value go up if I decided that this isn't something I wanted to stay into long term. The reason I like this one over a lot of the older ones and more tried and true gear, which is something I usually go for, is just because of the form factor. Not only does it look like you know, PS3 controller, whatever number they're on now, so it's something that I'm used to because I've played a lot of video games growing up, but also it's just way smaller to travel with, which that's going to be something that I plan on doing quite a lot with these controllers and all this gear, and just having stuff take up less space is always nice. So that's why I went with this one. And also I only plan on flying FPV and quadcopters, so having a bunch of other options and switches and dials and stuff on there is not something that I'm going to be using in future. At least I don't think I will be. Two other things that I bought to go with this controller is this module that's going to go on the back. So the default signal that this sends is crossfire. This is like kind of the nerdier side of things, but if you're going to look at this, the stuff you need to know, which means that it can only pair with drones that have a crossfire receiver on them, which most of the mini whoops that I'm flying do not have crossfire, because crossfire is for mostly bigger drones that want to go farther and have a better connection. This is the module that I bought that will go on the back. It's $60, so it's even more expensive than the controller that I have now, but it will allow me to pair with things on other frequencies. I'm not sure if that's even the right verbiage there, but basically I can transmit with OpenTX and FreedomTX. NewBeeDrone, the Acrobee, currently uses, I believe, is FreedomTX. Don't quote me on that, but it's one of these two, so I can actually send a signal to different types of drones, and these are a lot more used than the Crossfire. Even though the Crossfire is like kind of the higher end signal, these two are still important for me to be able to fly because I like flying smaller drones anyways. So the end product should look something like this. So it doesn't add too much bulk. It's actually from the manufacturer, a couple of generations of this controller, which since they're on back order, I'll be getting the newest generation of this controller. But they've actually like built it in, so it's really easy to connect these two together. You don't actually have to do any soldering, which is really nice. And then this is the form factor that I'll be flying with. So I'm pretty excited about this. I'm glad that I did the research to figure all this out. It wasn't actually too hard to figure out, but just the knowledge that goes along with it. The other thing that I had to buy, and something that I'm considering printing actually, is a module bay. So this is just going to sit on the back of the controller and be a nice place for this to slot in, and to make sure that the ribbon cable doesn't get messed up when I'm plugging it in or whatever. Sorry, a lot of talking. So you actually just plug a ribbon cable straight into this controller right here, and then you cut a hole in it, in the actual casing itself, and run it up on the back here, and that's where it sits. So it should take, I've seen people do it on a couple of YouTube videos, it takes like all of 5 minutes to set up, which is really nice. And then you have this module on the back here. So I'm considering 3D printing this. I haven't found files for it, and this is definitely not something that I want to create myself, but maybe. So that's where I'm at. I don't know, I might buy it and then still end up 3D printing one that might be slightly differently, or just be able to get the files out there. That's something I gotta look into. It just crossed my mind. I think I heard someone in a video saying that they printed theirs, and I was like, oh, I could probably do that since I have a 3D printer. So that's where I'm at with that stuff. So that's the controller. This is the biggest investment that I was trying to make. They've taken my money, but I haven't actually gotten the controller yet. So yeah, this is a big piece of it. But again, I plan on having this for the life of my FPV hobby, career, or whatever it's going to be. So I didn't mind spending a little bit more money. And these are clearly wanted controllers. So selling it on a third party, or, you know, the resale value on this should stay pretty high, especially if you can't find them. batteries for the NewBeeDrone, they don't actually come with batteries. Maybe, I'm sorry, this Ready to Fly kit does come, I believe, with 4 of their batteries. But if you just buy the drone like I did, it will not come with any batteries. So you have to buy the batteries, and you also have to buy the battery charger. That took me like a couple extra days to get flying because I didn't think about buying the charger for the batteries. These are 1S batteries, so same form factor. I'm not an expert and I haven't done enough research to tell you all the differences of all the batteries and what the millihour amps, how that's going to change your flight or anything like that, so you can definitely do your own research on that. But I bought 6 of them, and that's about 30 minutes of flying for me, which is about how long I've been comfortable flying, actually. Anything past that, I start to feel like, I don't know, I'm just getting too aggressive or I'm getting too out of control. So like 30 minutes of like good focused flying is about the right amount of time for me. And I'm doing that about once a week. I'd like to do it more, but we'll see how that goes. So those are the batteries. This is a charger I got, a cheap little $10 charger. With the S ones, I've found that they're not quite as delicate as some of the bigger ones. And I know that the lifespan of these are not going to be quite as long as some of the bigger ones, because these batteries it's $22 for 6 of them. So it's not like it's a ton of money. I'm hoping they last me 6 months. I'd be happy with that. So you can get more complicated chargers. I think this can actually be something that you spend a good amount of money on, like $1,000 or so, to get like a good charger for bigger batteries. That's going to be not quite like DJI smart charger level, but at least not burn your house down level. So that's what I'm attempting to do. So yeah, so far this has been fine. I can plug it into whatever wall wart that I have that takes USBs, and it charges up in about an hour. This can actually do 2 types of batteries, but I just have the one, and it's been working out perfectly fine for me so far. So I'll keep a track of that, and I'll let you guys know when this burns out or when the batteries burn out or whatever, all that good stuff. But so far, about 2 months in, and since March 14th, and it's May 3rd, no problems with this setup as far as the batteries go. I almost did something really stupid that I want to put out there as kind of a warning. Getting gear that it seems cool, you're seeing everyone on YouTube have it, but it just doesn't make sense for the level that you're at. Just really think about the level that you're at. If you just got into droning and you're having fun flying your little mini whoop around, don't feel like you have to go out and then buy the top of the line stuff immediately. You can kind of work your way up to it. As I was putting this together, I thought that I'd throw this little bit of information in there and just like think about what you're really doing and the level that you're actually at. These goggles are, from what I've seen, like their image quality is way higher. They seem way more enjoyable to wear just because the form factor is like way smaller than what I have now. But I don't actually have a drone that can even talk to these, send the right signal to these goggles. So I just have these to put on a shelf somewhere and look nice, because I don't know if I'll ever have a drone that sends digital signal. Maybe once I start looking into building a 3-inch drone, which is kind of the next thing that I've been looking at, is these 3-inch Tinywhoops. But currently, like, this is not in the game plan. So buying these goggles would do me no good. I just was like wanting so badly to have higher image quality, but it's not as easy as just like going and buying higher quality goggles. So it's just something to think about. Like, I don't know, I had a moment of weakness and I was like, oh, if I just spend the money, it will fix my problems. But it wasn't a very clearly thought through, process, or it's not as organized as I'm trying to be now, I guess is what I'm getting at. So, and then also thinking about what you're actually going to be doing with these drones, I think is a big hiccup that I'm still working out. But again, seeing those opportunities to do photography and video with different companies in my area, I'm like, yeah, I should probably get into the Tinywhoop space. And even the Tinywhoops, I don't need these DJI goggles or even know if I'll be able to use them at all. So That's my little moment of weakness that I'm sharing with you guys. This is kind of the end game for me right now, is these 3-inch mini whoops. The Tinywhoops, kind of the form factor that they'll be looking at. I know basically nothing about them besides what these look like and what they're capable of, which is carrying a GoPro, which is what I would want to be carrying if I'm doing any type of footage. This is the next thing that I personally need to learn about, but this is what's keeping me excited about drone FPV. And I just saw this article and thought it was kind of funny, but you don't want a Maverick, you want a Tinywhoop. As I'm asking myself those types of questions, like why would I be getting into this hobby or this side of the hobby rather than just going with the GPS drones and the Maverick stuff, which seems a lot easier to get into and I'd be able to get those shots right away. But I think as far as like being professional and knowing my gear inside and out, going this route is going to be more beneficial for all those types of things. If you enjoyed this live stream, please come back next week at Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to be reminded, you can subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. If anything that me or Steven are saying connected with you guys, please leave a comment down below, as we want to know what is piquing you guys' interest and what is useful out of these hour-long live streams that we're doing. But yeah, appreciate your time, and until next week, we'll see you.